Hello and welcome to That Bald Watch Guy. We're close to the end of the year and I thought this was the ideal time to basically review the state of the collection. This year was a bit of a different year. I decided to hold off on making a lot of purchases, so I was very content with the collection I had for this year. That doesn't mean there were incremental changes this year. So let's start off with the beginning. The first watch I ever bought, which was technically the Speedmaster. Now, like every collector, at some point you want to have a Speedmaster, but the problem is, which one are you going to buy? There's so many variants out there. You can go for the classic one, currently the 3861. You could go for something vintage of a special edition. I decided on the 3861 Sapphire Sandwich. The reasoning was basically I loved the bracelet so much and I wanted to make my life a little bit easier, and I went for the Sapphire Sandwich. The reason I didn't pick up the Hazelite version was simply because I didn't want to deal with any scratches, because this was my first purchase and I wanted a little bit of security. I didn't want to deal with scratches on the Hazelite, so I made my life easier. Now, today I would change my mind and would probably pick up the Hazelite because it's a little bit more authentic, and also now seeing the new beautiful first Omega into space, that also piqued my interest. But this watch will never leave the collection because this has a lot of meaning to me. I did a full review on this watch and I bought this watch when I was suffering from tinnitus, and when I saw light at the end of the tunnel, this was my celebration watch. So whatever happens in my watch collecting journey, I will do whatever it takes to keep this watch in my collection. But that's not my only Speedmaster in the collection. I actually have two more. Well, not really. They are MoonSwatches, and a bit of a love-hate relationship with them. The first one I picked up was the Mission to Mars. I picked it up, I think, about 2 to 3 months after release, after trying multiple times buying one, but every time I got unlucky. And we all know the story. There were a lot of flippers and people were selling them on the internet for a lot of money, and I got fed up with it completely. So what I did, I reached out to Swatch and told my story, and they were graceful enough to help me out. And I got a notification from one of the managers like, hey, Bald Watch Guy, this is the day to pick one up. I rushed to the store and there were a few models available. One of them was the Mission to Mars, and the reason I picked that one up, because the Neptune was not available for starters, is because I loved the rocket hands, which were a very nice nod to my favorite, more expensive Speedmaster, which was the Project Alaska, which are almost impossible to buy these days. First thing I did was looking for a strap alternative because I didn't enjoy the standard strap it came on. I didn't like the white strap and I didn't like the feel of it. So I decided on putting on a very cool red NATO strap, give it a red on red vibe. And I wear this watch actually more than I thought, even more than my current Speedmaster for some reason. It's just a really fun toy to wear around the house when you're just lounging around and you don't want to make sure your Speedmaster gets banged up. So you wear that. But after a while, I still had an itch for the Neptune because that was the one that I really wanted. So 6 months after, I purchased that when they were releasing the new special hype models with the special hands referring to the moon. But those were impossible to get, and I picked up the regular one and I never looked back. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the wrist time it deserves. I don't know why, maybe because I bonded with other watches too much. So this might be one that get axed next year. Up next is something special. This is a small 33mm Maurice Lacroix, and this watch was owned by my grandfather. This watch has never been worn. He got this watch gifted when he retired from his work, and he just put it in the closet and it got neglected. Now, when my grandfather died, my brother got it and also put it in the collection, and I decided, look, please, give it to me. I'll give it a good home. And I brought it to my watchmaker, replaced the battery, cleaned it up. And now in family occasions, I wear it from time to time. Now, this watch has a problem. The date wheel is stuck. It doesn't change dates anymore. And I've been looking for replacement parts But unfortunately, no luck, because I took it to my watchmaker and he just told me like, look, it's gonna be too expensive to repair for what it's worth. So if there's anybody out there that has a replacement movement for this one, please reach out and I'll buy it off you so I can restore this watch to its former glory. It's not the only watch that's vintage in my collection. I have another one that's currently on loan with my dad for the last 3 years. And that's my grandfather's watch from the other side. And he's somewhat of a hero to me because he fought during World War II in the resistance. And he basically always, what he did was he had a farm and he looked over an airfield and he always communicated towards the British like, hey guys, there are currently 5 Messerschmitts, 3 Junkers bombers. And then the British shot into action and bombed the hell out of the airfield. Unfortunately, by the end of the war, the Germans were fleeing and they decided to settle scores with the people. And they picked up my grandfather and tried to shoot him. Luckily, the Canadians and the Polish soldiers just got there in the nick of time and saved my grandfather. And this was the watch he always wore. And this watch was with my uncle. The same story like with my brother. It was thrown somewhere in a closet and it never saw the day of light. So I decided to steal it. And I brought it to my local watchmaker and I asked him, please, could you repair this watch for me? Because this has a very sentimental value. And I actually kept the watch for like 2 weeks and I decided this watch should not be in my hands. This watch has more meaning to my dad. So 2 years ago at Christmas Eve, we were at Paradisa having a nice family outing and I decided to give them to me and I rarely see my dad cry, but this was the first time he was overcome with emotions and it has a good home and from time to time I take it to my place and make sure it still ticks and runs well and I wear it occasionally, but I know this watch belongs with my dad and one day, unfortunately, I will get it back, but I'm not looking forward to that day. Special story, it's one of the 3 watches that will never leave the collection together with the Speedmaster and the other watch of my grandfather. But of course, you never stay with a few watches, your collection always grows and grows. And this is my Tudor Harrods now. And the Tudor Harrods also has somewhat of a special meaning to me. This watch I purchased in 2022 with my brother-in-law and we both have the same watch. What's the story behind it? Basically, I got a phone call of my sister and she told me my brother-in-law had a small accident and we had to go to the emergency room. Of course, in the weekend, the emergency room is kind of packed. So we're just sitting there and waiting and we were looking at that watch and I told him like, look, I want to buy a Tudor. We're back in the day at least. For price quality, actually my recommendation. And I wanted something else. I was looking at the Black Bay 58, which would have be better for my wrist. But I decided on that one because of the green. And my brother-in-law had the same feeling, look, this is beautiful. So we both sent an email basically to Harrods, like, please, we would like to put our name on the waiting list. And we're just waiting and seeing a little bit. Luckily, I got an email like 3 months later and I immediately reached out, look, my brother-in-law also sent an email, could you look if we can get it at the same time? And luckily we got it at the same time. So we both went to London, we took the Eurostar, we got the same watch basically with very close numbers. And for me, it's not the perfect watch because it's very big and I'm not always the biggest fan of the Fortina, but because of the story, I will never sell it. And it's just the most fun back at family events. We both be like, hey, cool watch, and basically we have the same one. The main difference between mine and his, mine is still in too much of a pristine state. He wears it all the time. It's the watch he wears when he basically does his gardening or is around the house cooking, and it's banged up and loved to that, and I should love it a little bit more. Talking about watches, I also enjoy the lower end, and I never got into Casios or G-Shocks. For some reason, I didn't like them. Not about a snobbish perspective, but I'm not a fan of digital. But at the end, I decided, like, I need to have one. And I settled on the Casio Royale after doing a lot of research. And why did I buy the Casio Royale? Because I didn't have any world timer or GMT in my collection. Plus, this watch is very well known for its modding capabilities. A lot of people put a steel case on it, they remove all the text, they replace the bracelet. Now, I never got that far. I only replaced the bracelet. I put on a very nice leather strap that perfectly fits the watch. And it's something I don't really regret of buying, but it doesn't get any wrist time. I wore it a few times in the beginning because this is cool, this is something different, but I never vibed with it. We all make mistakes in our watch collecting, but the watch is so cheap, I'm never gonna sell it, and there's probably gonna be a time that I'm probably gonna pick it up or gift it to somebody. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. Now, there was one watch this year I owned for less than 20 hours. I actually was looking for a field watch and I didn't know what I wanted. I was looking at the Laurier, I was looking at the CWC, I was looking at the Hamilton Khaki Field. But in the end, I settled for the Seiko SRPG 35 because I liked the narrow strap on it. I liked the more desert camo feel of it. And actually, I was able to buy it on a deal because a friend of mine who is part of the Discord group, which I'm gonna plug in a little bit actually, had the same watch and told me like, hey, you can buy this watch for 180 euros right now in Maastricht. And I was looking at it and it's like, oh great, there's an outlet there from Seiko, let's go pick it up. And I picked it up and I immediately enjoyed the watch. I knew the movement was not as accurate as any others, but I enjoyed that it had more water resistance than the classic khaki field mechanical. I picked it up, but the same day, a very important person in my life decided to go on holiday to the Faroe Islands. And it's a person that means a lot of me in my life and who did a lot of me in my darkest days. And I was like, maybe this is not the watch for me. And she deserves a little gift from me, just as a thank you for everything you did for me. So I drove to the airport the same day and I decided to gift her the watch. And it didn't go easily because she doesn't like more expensive watches. She has basically Casio. I gifted her and she bought herself a Swatch and she has some kind of cool watches from fashion brands. I got a little bit into and I decided, look, here's the watch, take it to the Faroe Islands and give it back to me when you're back. And smart move from me, she bonded with the watch, she put memories on it, and when she came back, she offered me the watch back like, no, this is your watch now. This is who you are. This is the watch that perfectly fits with your lifestyle. And she finally accepted it, and I gifted her the box and everything, and I hope she wears it a lot, and I hope she remembers the good times and the bad times we have, mostly the good times, just as a little token of, hey, thank you. So that actually gave me a bit of a problem because I was looking for a field watch and actually was giving up because I have one problem and that's making decisions. But luckily, a few weeks ago, I was entered in a raffle from a Discord called Chrono Collective. And shout out to Chrono Collective. It's, in my opinion, currently the most fun Discord group you can find on Discord. You'll find amazing members from all over the world. Collectors who are specialized in Seikos, people who do vintage stuff. There's even one guy who only collects white dial watches. There's a guy who basically buys every watch you can find, a hoarder. There's a variety in the community and I actually recommend all of you guys of joining it. I will put the link down in the description. You will even find me there on a regular basis in the VC where you can talk directly to me and to other fun members of the community. So basically they had a raffle and I was on holiday 2 weeks ago to Turkey, and unfortunately in Turkey currently there's a bit of a problem. They banned Discord for some reason, and when I came home I had like 100 missed messages. I was pinged, I was texted, what the hell is going on here? So I opened my message box and I saw like, hey, you won the prize. So, oh, what did I win? So I will add soon a Hamilton Khaki Field automatic 38mm to the collection. Now the question is, when will it be shipped? I don't know. When will it arrive? I don't know, but I trust the fellas from Chrono Collective and I'm sure by the end of the year I'll be able to make a review video. So it's not in the collection right away, but it will be arriving soon. So this brings us to the last watch in my collection, and it was the watch that I had a very much a love-hate relationship with, and that's the Submariner date that I purchased in July 2023. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this is my second Submariner that I purchased in my life. I bought the previous model, but I had a very negative experience with the AD, and I decided to sell the watch one week after owning it. And I will make a video why I sold that watch at one point. And I actually, and it's bad to say, that watch almost pushed me out of watch collection. It took me a year to buy the Speedmaster because I was just disgusted of how I was treated. So I bought the Speedmaster, I bought the Tudor, I bought the MoonSwatches, but I always wanted the Submariner. I know it's one of the most basic B watches out there. So I put my name on the waiting list, and I talked to the day, and I was somewhat upfront about it, that I was a watch collector and really loved the Submariner. I picked up the Submariner, but the problem was I never wore it too much. I don't know why. It was a bit of a safe queen. I wanted to keep it a little bit immaculate, and I felt like I didn't deserve that watch anymore to a certain extent, until I went on holiday to Turkey, and a good friend of mine, I'm gonna shout him out here, Tim, thank you very much for this advice, told me, please bring that watch on holiday. And I did. And the second day on holiday, my dad asked me to help him out carrying his plates, and I put the plate on the watch because I used to work in the service field, and I banged up that watch, and I was devastated because, look, I don't have problem putting scratches on the watches at all, but the first one hurts. You can say whatever you want, the first one hurts. But it was a relief a day after, and I started to enjoy the watch, and I went swimming with it in the sea, I went swimming with it in the pool, and I was wearing it 24/7, and I finally bonded with that watch, and I doubted keeping it, but now I don't see a reason, because that memory attached to it, that my dad needed some help, is important to me, because my dad is getting older and he's struggling a bit with his health, and whatever happens, that watch will remind me of my dad now. So it's important to me. A watch that I thought I would sell 2 months ago is now important. So what will bring the future in my watch collecting journey? I'm missing a dress watch, and I have no clue what to do. I thought about the Datejust, but I feel like I'm done with Rolex when it comes to their watches. I was looking at GLC, I don't know. I was looking at a Cartier tank, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm a bit done with collecting. I know that's a hard statement to make, but I'm very content with my collection, and I've learned less is more. I have a nice 8 watch collection right now. Is there a place for a 9th? Of course. But which one is a mystery? So we'll see what the releases will bring of Watches and Wonders. We will see which microbands will finally pique my interest. It's always gonna be a journey. Anyways, see you in 2025 of making a similar video. Bye bye.